what are some foods that you can eat that actually make you feel full, and how do you eat them? Like
the people who had the higher dose, 3 tablespoons of lost more weight, lost more body fat than the ones who had 1.
When you're sleeping and not eating, your body's burning down fuel from your fat cells. You're actually losing weight, burning fat while you're sleeping.
Well, how long do you have to not eat for this to work?
So this is actually the important part. We know that hours is where you're going to start to get that benefit.
gut health. Turns out the latest research shows that this is as important in ways that we haven't fully figured out yet for longevity.
When you get up in the morning, this is like a super little easy tip that I tell anybody. I practice it myself.
And it turns out the people who wound up having the best cognition, brain health, in the long run were the people that had a diet.
Wherever your starting point is, this is the key thing. You can always begin a healthier life and get over your own body fat. Like you can win that battle easily by doing a couple of things. I tell the first thing you do is to
if you feel full, you're less likely to overeat, right? I mean, it just doesn't feel good to stuff yourself to the gills. All right, so what are some foods that you can eat that actually make you feel full, and how do you eat them so you can kind of get to that better desired state? Well, first of all, foods that have a lot of dietary fiber, like chickpeas, legumes, lentils, white beans. I mean, you ever have like a bean taco? All right, like one bean taco will make you eat less dinner later on, right? For lunch, it'll make you eat less dinner later on, and that's because beans with all that dietary fiber actually have a satiety effect, not only on your gut, but also in your brain. And that's a good thing. And that dietary fiber, by the way, has a fringe benefit, a big one, which is that dietary fiber feeds our gut microbiome. And that gut microbiome turns out to be much more important than we thought for longevity. Okay, and this is an area that I'm super fascinated by, because here we are talking about gut health and anti-inflammation and autoimmune diseases and all the current discussion around gut health. All right, turns out the latest research shows that this is as important in ways that we haven't fully figured out yet for longevity.
Supporting the gut microbiome.
That's right.
Okay, so dietary fiber is important. We talk a lot about protein, the value of protein on this podcast as well. Would you say that protein is important as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Protein is super important, especially once you get beyond the age of 40. Most people need to actually keep up and build up on their protein. So the question is, what is your source of protein? Now, I'm somebody who believes that having a balanced diet, more of an omnivore type of diet, you're capable and willing to, you're opening your mind to eat anything that's good for you. And by the way, preference is also really important. You want to eat the things that are good for you, that you actually enjoy eating. Like, that's the alignment you're really looking for. Listen, you want to live long and live well. You want to do the things that you want to do. You don't want to actually feel like you're in a box or a cage, right? And so this is why the choice of protein becomes important. Now, look, there's a lot of data and a lot of people that say that you should cut down or cut out red meat. I leave it for the people that really take a stance for or against that. Okay, what I say is that, eating meat is part of an omnivore balanced diet. You can have red meat, but you can also have poultry. You can also have fish. All right, and if you want to go into the plant realm, you've got all these legumes and you've got plant-based proteins. They're all good as well. Interestingly, there was a study on longevity that looked at different dietary patterns to figure out what are the patterns that seem to lead to better brain health. Okay, so less dementia. And it turns out, and they studied people who ate a lot of carbs. They studied people that ate a lot of junk food and a lot of specific protein. They studied vegetarians, and they studied people with a balanced diet. And it turns out the people who wound up having the best cognition, brain health, in the long run were the people that had a balanced diet, better than the vegetarians. Okay, now we don't understand the whole aspect of it, but it just goes to show you, if you take a religious style side about your foods, you might actually be missing out on something that science is still in the process of figuring out. Balanced diet is actually there, and protein is one of those critical macros that we have a lot of choices to actually get from. So that's what I actually think about protein.
Yeah, I think about it, I mean, less in terms of balance and more in terms of dietary diversity. Like, it's really important to incorporate different sources of protein because, you know, if all you're doing is eating red meat, then you're missing out on the abundance of omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish, for example. So for me, I feel like, based on what I understand about the literature, it's there's value in, it's a way of hedging your bets at the very least. Like, you're incorporating all of these different varied micronutrients that are found in different protein sources.
Right. No, that's completely true. And this is not so much of an argument to be a carnivore, but what you're pointing out is incredibly important. There are things that you can get in meats that you don't get as well from legumes. For example, iron, like at a high level, because it comes from blood, you know, which is what you get in meat. That's really important. Omega-3s, you're not going to be getting a lot of those. Even in the animals that eat plants, you're not going to get as much as you get in fish, you know. And so I think that, you know, as a researcher, I follow the bouncing ball of where the evidence comes from. And it turns out that while it's absolutely true, eating a primarily plant-based diet is a generally better way to go. So far, all the evidence from longevity perspective says that eating more diversity is actually going to support your long life.
Hey there, check this out. I've got a special resource on the 5 science-based ways to lose fat that I made just for you, and it's free. Many of us want to lose weight for our own reasons, but I'm here to tell you that there's an even better reason to lose harmful excess visceral fat for your health. And guess what? In this resource, I share the 5 things that anyone can do to lose harmful excess body fat. All you have to do is click the link below to access the resource. Now, back to the video.
Let me give you some really simple tools that anyone can actually use that they probably even heard about. One is called intermittent fasting.
Okay.
But I'm going to debunk that too.
Oh my God. So you're telling me to do it? Now you're debunking it?
Let me tell you, first of all, intermittent fasting is thought of as a health fad, a trend that everybody does. And you got to go, what is it, like 16 hours of not eating and squeeze everything in 8 hours. Hey, listen, that would be very hard for someone like me and probably like you, running around all the time. Okay. It doesn't work very well. But let me tell you that there's more than one way to get at it. And the best way to intermittently fast is to take advantage of the fact that when we're sleeping, we're not eating.
Okay.
When we're not eating, we're fasting. Okay. So sleeping is intermittent fasting because we don't sleep all the time. And when we get up and we break our fast, which is called breakfast. All right. And that's the best way to get intermittent fasting. But I got to give you a little understanding of this. Okay. Because after you eat the last bite of food the night before, all right, your body is like, okay, is that it? That's the last drop of fuel we're going to get tonight. The moment it realizes you're not going to put any more fuel in your metabolism recognizes, it goes from fuel storing mode. Come on, give some more. Let me put it in my fat. Oh, no more food. Let's now switch gears. Okay, like literally like a gearbox in a car. If your body's a Ferrari, all right, and you're going to switch gears when you're no longer eating, it switches into fuel burning mode from fuel storing. Let's load up that body fat to fuel burning. So when you're sleeping and not eating, your body's burning down fuel from your fat cells. You're actually losing weight, burning fat while you're sleeping.
Well, how long do you have to not eat for this to work?
So this is actually the important part. We know that 8 hours of sleeping is the healthy amount of sleeping for all kinds of things, brain health and metabolic health and anti-aging and everything else. You want to sleep 8. It's more like 7 to 9. 8's like right in the middle. 8 hours is where you're going to start to get that benefit. But let me tell you how anybody can expand their body's own hardwired fat burning period. Okay. So what you do is you expend it on both sides before you go to bed and when you get up in the morning. Let me talk about the night before. All right. So like if you sit down and eat at 7 and you're done at 8, when you put your dishes away, no more eating. All right. There's no midnight snacking. Don't take a bag of chips with you and sit on the couch and watch the game or whatever else you might do. All right. Don't be nibbling. No last minute before bedtime, open and get that piece of pie. When you're done at 8, when you put your dishes away, that's it. Now, let's say you go to bed at 11 o'clock. I'm just going to give an example. Eat dinner at 7, stop eating at 8, put your dishes away. No more food until the next day.
And no drinking.
And no drinking. Actually, tea is okay. All right, as long as
I'm
you don't put
talking
milk in
alcohol.
it. No drinking for sure.
Okay.
Anything with no more calories. Okay.
Okay.
8 o'clock, let's say you go to bed at 11. Okay. That's 3 hours between 8 and 11 o'clock, 3 hours. You just bought yourself 3 extra hours of fat burning time. 11 to 7 in the morning, that's 8 hours. Okay. So that's 3 hours plus 8 hours. That's 11 hours of fat burning that you've given your body just by not eating after you put the dishes away. Now, when you get up in the morning, this is like a super little easy tip that I tell anybody. I practice it myself. Get up in the morning. Don't do what your mom told you to do, right? So when we were growing up, get out of bed, get down to that breakfast table, eat something quickly so you can actually go to school and learn something. Don't be hungry. No, we're adults. And it turns out you don't need to eat right away in the morning. Get up in the morning, take your time getting ready. And for me, before I eat anything, I will go for a walk. I'll open the door, get some fresh air, maybe read a book, check my email, whatever. Wait at least an hour from the time you wake up until the time that you put the first thing in your mouth. Now, that's 1 extra hour. So 3 hours the night before bed, 8 hours, that's 11 total of fasting, meaning fat burning time. Now add 1 more hour, okay, by not eating right away. And you've got 11 plus 1 is 12 hours, 12 out of 24 hours, 50% of your day. You've had your body burning down harmful body fat, extra body fat. That's the simplest way to use intermittent fasting. 12 hours. Now, you might say, is 12 hours enough? Yeah, because 8 hours is enough. 12 hours is a little bit better. Clinical studies have shown that 12 hours of fasting, much in the way that I've told you, actually is plenty of time to actually lose weight over time.
So are you saying that this is a tool that based on the research, anybody can use to eat in an 8-hour window from like noon to 8 p.m.?
Yep.
And that will help you no matter what your health looks like. That will help you kick into fuel burning and fat burning mode without really having to even worry about the food yet.
You don't have to break into a sweat doing that because it's all very easy. I mean, plenty of people are already doing this, but the key thing, Mel, is that you want to make sure that when you finally do eat, whether it's breakfast or lunch, you don't overfill your tank.
Well, how do you know when you're full? I know this is a kind of an odd question to ask, but I love food. Especially if I've got something in front of me that I really love, like a big juicy burger that, the kind you squeeze to try to get in your mouth and some of the juice is coming down. There is no way I need to eat that entire thing, especially if it's a smash burger with a couple patties. And so yet how do you know when enough is enough and the click has happened?
Right. So it's all hardwired inside us. And the problem why we miss the cues that our body sends us that we have actually filled up our tank is because we eat too fast.
Oh.
All right. So when you eat quickly, right, busy people tend to eat really quickly. Distracted people tend to eat quickly. If you're just checking out social media, you're not paying attention and you're eating by yourself, you're just shoveling food in your mouth, you're paying attention to something else. That is a common mistake that we all make, is that we're distracted and we're used to just shoveling all the abundant food that's placed in front of us. Okay, let me just tell you something that I learned before I went to medical school to be a doctor. I did a gap year. And in my gap year, I went to Italy and Greece, the Mediterranean. And what I was interested in studying there was the connections between food, culture, and health in those places. Now, this was long before people were talking about the Mediterranean diet. I came from America. I landed in Italy. I was staying with a host family. Within a day or two, I began realizing, wow, the way that people eat in the Mediterranean is completely different than what I grew up and what I'm used to. We in America sit down and we're gobbling food. We're complaining about things we're eating with somebody else. We're kvetching about, some problems going on. We're eating fast. There's way too much food in front of us. And, or we're eating alone.
Yeah.
And you're eating alone. You're distracted by something else. And before long, you've cleaned the whole plate. All right. And you don't even realize what you've eaten. It might taste good, but you're not thinking about it. In the Mediterranean, in Italy specifically, and it's as clear as day for me. You'd sit down for food. You would never eat by yourself. You would always eat with a friend or a family member or a coworker. All right. You would take the time to order the food. And when the food comes, you're not kvetching or complaining about your boss or, the family or the weather or the sports team. You are sitting when the food arrives with full of gratitude and talking about the joy of the food. Man, this pasta was just like my mother made. Is this the right season for it? Yeah, you should see the mushrooms that we have. How do you make it? People would talk about their food. Okay. The food that was not just something that was shoved in front. You would engage with the food. And when you're eating the food, you would taste the food and talk about the food. And people would enjoy the actual part of eating. The enjoyment of the food, the mindfulness was completely different. And by the way, they never overserve you. All right.
So do you have a rule for that? Like, would you use like a sandwich plate instead of a dinner plate? If you're trying
So here's what I always tell people. Whatever your eye wants to actually put onto your plate, right? So think about this is the classic meal I always talk about, this Thanksgiving meal. Like you're all getting together, maybe you haven't eaten all day, and now there's all this great food that reminds you of all the happy times. You're going to load your plate up, right? What I tell people, that's a mistake. Whatever your eyes tell you want to put in, only take 2/3 of that plate.
Okay.
Okay.
2/3.
Leave a third back.
Okay.
And never go for seconds. All right. You will actually, and just eat those 2/3 and really enjoy the taste, savor the taste. If you're a foodie like me, you enjoy great tasting food. Mm-hmm. All right. Doesn't have to be fancy. It could be super simple. It could be comfort food. Eat it slowly to savor it. Okay. That savoring the food is something I notice is always done in the Mediterranean and also in Asia, two of the healthiest cuisines of the world.
And it slows you down. Dr. Lee, you have a 4-week meal plan that you've designed based on almost 30 years of experience. Can you break down some of the key features for me and the person listening?
Yeah. Okay. So wherever your starting point is, this is the key thing. You can always begin a healthier life and get over your own body fat. Like you can win that battle easily by doing a couple of things. I tell the first thing you do is to do an assessment. A food diary is what I call it. Okay. Don't try anything yet. Just do what you're going to do for a couple of weeks. Take out a piece of paper, or maybe you've got notes on your mobile device, and just record what you're eating and how much you're eating every single meal.
Why is that important?
Because a lot of us don't realize what we're eating and how much we're eating. Every time you snack, pop out that piece of paper or your notes section and write it down. No guilt, no shame. This is all about just recording it.
Okay.
Now, after 2 weeks, go back and look at it. And most of us will be surprised at what we ate, how often we ate, and how much we actually ate. All right. By having that self-realization, by documenting it, it's kind of like you're trying to develop an allowance. You're teaching children how to spend money responsibly. Write down what you spent and then add it up at the end of a couple of weeks, and then you'll know exactly what you did.
And after recommending this to patients and researching this, what might the person who does this find or have a realization other than gotta eat a lot?
Well, I would say first, the amount of food that they ate and how frequently they ate. Man, I had no idea that I ate that much and that often. All right. So the second epiphany is by identifying what kind of food. Most people go, geez, I kind of eat junky food. All right. Just documenting that for yourself. Again, no judgment. This is just so you can see where you are. And that's the first phase. I think then you go on to the swap in phase.
What?
I call it swap in, not swap out. Swap in.
Oh, swap in. I thought you said swap. I'm like swamp. I'm like, that doesn't sound good. Okay,
no.
Swap in. Okay.
Right? Because basically people go, oh, so now's the part where I actually have to deprive myself, right? Nope. I'm saying, listen, you know when you're not eating good stuff. Let's talk about swapping in. Take something that you love to eat that's healthy and swap it in. Okay. And there's all kinds of things that we love to eat that is healthy. And that's in my book, Eat to Beat Your Diet. I give lists of 200 different food items, ingredients that are all delicious that you can swap in. The reason I call it swap in is because when you're eating something, you're displacing something that is not so good for you. The more good stuff that you swap in, less room you're just going to have in your life for the stuff that's not so good for you.
Well, what I love about that is because you hear the word diet or lose weight and you immediately are like, oh, and it feels like you're going to have to restrict. And your swap in like methodology, it makes a lot of sense because if I think about it, I could eat a bag of chips and not even think about it. I'm not going to eat a bushel of apples.
No.
So if I'm adding in something healthy, I'm probably not going to overeat it anyway.
Exactly. That's the other thing. But you might also find, you'll be a little bit more mindful of. So do an assessment, step one. Number two, swap in.
Okay.
Number three is then do the intermittent fasting part that I told you. Now, the key though with this, don't overeat when it is time to eat.
That's the 2/3 rule.
Okay. 2/3 rule. And one thing I'll tell you that's a Japanese saying that came from Confucius is called stop when you're 80% full. Now, I'm going to tell you how you know this. But there's the Japanese saying is called hara hachi bun mi. Hara hachi bun mi really means just listen to your body when you're about 80% full. How do you know when you're 80% full? Well,
I have to unbutton my pants usually.
Well, okay. By the time you feel full,
yes,
you've already passed 80%.
It's true. Like I kind of just feel that sense that, but there's just one more bite and it's not ever as good as the one that came before.
Listen, here's an example, Mel. Like when you're parking a car, like in a parking lot, and there's like those little cement things in front, right?
Yes.
Like you're pulling it up a little bit further. Like when you start hitting that, when you see that grating sound in your car,
yes,
you've gone too far. That's what happens when you have to unbutton your
it's
pants.
True.
So, but if you eat slowly, and then listen, this is a very important point. You want to stop eating when you're satisfied, not when you're full. When you feel, that was pretty good. Not when you're full. We're so trained to look at the volume of our stomach, the pouching. We're trained to unbutton our pants.
Right.
Okay. But really, if you eat slowly and mindfully and take your time and savor your food, at some point when you put your fork down, you're going to go, that was pretty good. I like that. That's 80%.
Hey there, if you're ready to take control of your health using the power of food, then I encourage you to check out my Eat to Beat Disease online course. More than 4,000 people from 80 countries have taken it, and now they know how to eat to beat disease. And you can too. I personally developed all the material in this course, drawing from my latest research and my years of experience. It's designed to give you practical, science-based strategies that you can use to boost your health every single day. To learn more, click the link below. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because apple cider vinegar is one of these areas that has both myth as well as fact. And this is one of the things that I really enjoy doing is as a researcher and as a scientist as well as a doctor, how do we actually find the truth behind the myths? And then for the myths, how do we actually break those myths? How do we bust the myth, as we say, in order to arrive at what's real and what is actionable? So here's the thing. For years, I have heard from mostly friends that they were drinking apple cider vinegar, often in the morning time, for various health applications. And I had always been very skeptical. Vinegar is pretty strong. It can taste good in cooking, but it's a very strong substance to have by itself. And I always thought, if you put that strong vinegar in your mouth, you're going to be dissolving the enamel on your teeth, which can't be good for you. And it doesn't matter if it's apple cider or some other type of vinegar. Of course, apple cider sort of took on this mythic reputation of being something especially healthy. So is it the apple? Is it something in apples? Like these are the things that a scientist like me begin to ask. But more importantly, I when it came to weight loss, which exactly as you said, Luke, weight loss tends to attract a lot of attention, which quickly becomes sort of a populist idea. Like people want to believe something that might not be true. So I was always skeptical about apple cider vinegar and weight loss, but then the research starts to come out. And this is where I, myself as a scientist, I have to be honest by saying, I can assume one thing, but if new data comes out that I look at and I critically evaluate, and the data shows that something is true or untrue, I've got to go with the data. So with apple cider vinegar, I was astounded to see that researchers in Japan had been studying a dose-dependent effect of apple cider vinegar on metabolism. And that's weight loss. That's actually a reduction in body composition when it comes to visceral fat. That's lowering of inflammatory markers in the blood. The real research that one does in food as medicine, not the woo-woo stuff. And what I saw was really quite remarkable. First, in one of these research studies, they gave people what they called low dose, which is 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, versus high dose, which is 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. So if you imagine in your kitchen taking out a bottle of apple cider vinegar and pouring 3 tablespoons in it into a small cup, all right, that 3 tablespoons is pretty easy to drink if you had to. It's a quick shot. Well, they studied this daily over the course of a month, and what they found indeed is that people who had any apple cider vinegar compared to a placebo, which is drinking water, that any apple cider vinegar would actually shrink waist circumference, which is the size of your waist, and the waist circumference reflects how much fat is in the tube of your body. Right. So, and that's visceral fat inside there. So over the course of a month, apple cider vinegar drinkers had a shrinking of their waist circumference. And they had less body fat, and their inflammatory markers also went down, and they actually lost weight when you looked on a scale. That's pretty amazing to me that you can do a study to show that this works. Now, a couple of fine points. The people who had the higher dose, 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, lost more weight, lost more body fat than the ones who had 1 tablespoon. And that's a dose response, which is a good sign that there's something real biologically going on. All right. Usually if it's sort of, look, you can have different kinds of dose responses. This one was pretty convincing that something was working. If a little bit is good, a little bit more can actually have even a greater effect and lost more fat. And the fact that the type of fat that was lost was visceral fat. That is the harmful inflammatory fat that we really want to deal with, especially, by the way, in Southeast Asians. That's really the kind of the apple shape that people can become as they get older. And the apple is really where the waist size expands because you wind up actually growing more visceral fat. Visceral means guts. And visceral fat is a fat that kind of naturally grows around the guts. But when it builds up, you expand your waist size. So you want to kind of reverse that. Apple cider vinegar actually works. Now, a couple of things about it. When you break it down into what is actually happening, because I always ask, does something work in people? Doesn't work in people. Like we've cured cancer in mice for years. Doesn't mean that it's going to work in people, but something that works in people, now it's worth going back into exploring what's the mechanism of action, like an inquiring scientist always wants to know. So guess what? It's not the apples in apple cider vinegar. It's not the apple source. It's the vinegar. It's the acetic acid. All vinegar is made with acetic acid. In fact, acetic acid is a definition of vinegar, which is another name for vinegar. So the chemists call it acetic acid. The chefs call it vinegar. All right. And vinegar actually works by preventing fat cells in our body. These fat cells are called adipocytes. Adipose, fat, site, cell. Vinegar, acetic acid, prevents fat cells from expanding. All right. And it also impedes your body's own ability to make new fat cells. So we all are born with fat cells. They expand. That's our fuel tank. If you are still eating and you're building more fat, your body can make new fat cells with stem cells. So now you actually create more fuel tanks and you can grow your fat mass. Acetic acid prevents the first fat masses from blowing up, like expanding, and it prevents the new ones from growing as well. And we think that that's really one of the primary mechanisms of action of acetic acid or vinegar. What does that mean? That means that apple cider vinegar is good. That's been shown in clinical studies, but it means that other vinegars are also good. White vinegar, red wine vinegar. There's all kinds of vinegars you can actually make with a variety of different fruits and vegetables, frankly, that can all be fermented to create that acetic acid. If you take a look at countries in Asia, they have black vinegar, fermented vinegars. There's a whole, go into any store that carries a variety of vinegars, and you will be blown away by the diversity of how you create vinegars. My health tip, anybody who is interested in exploring this for themselves, is if you are, whatever the vinegar is, please pick up the bottle and read the label for the ingredients, because you want to make sure that it really is indeed true apple cider vinegar or red wine vinegar, and it doesn't have other ingredients added to it, because many times well-intentioned companies will want to doctor up or put additives into a vinegar in order to make it more appealing. Great example is salad dressing. Salad dressing is made with vinegar and oil, but in a salad dressing, they'll put all kinds of things in there to make that product seem more appealing. And those additives can actually be detrimental to your health and detrimental to your metabolism.
Hey, if you like that video, then you're going to love this one. Check it out.